YouTube? This is Airborne Cybercomic fan coming at you with a Los Angeles, Stan Lee's Los Angeles con video. So, this is not my haul video. This is not my good or bad suggestions. I'll do that in a later video this week when I put that together. But I had today, this is Sunday, I don't know when this is going to be posted, but Stan Lee and McFareland had a panel on the last day, and I missed, I think, the first minute of it, but I did catch the rest of it. And I just wanted to share that video with you guys, and hopefully you enjoy it. Surprisingly, with Stan being at his age, he's still funny as hell. But again, heads up, sorry for the shakiness, because I had people walking around me, and my elbow was hitting their head. But I hope you guys enjoy it. Also, McFareland talks about his Spawn movie, and he talks about what his idea of what he wants Stan's cameo to be. So, if you do not want to know, when he starts talking about it, turn it off or fast forward it. I'll try to put something. I would definitely put something or pause in this video. I'll put me saying don't watch this or something, and then I'll put me saying this is good. So don't watch this. This is good. So you guys don't know what happens in that time of the Spawn movie. So just a heads up, disclaimer, I'm telling you guys. So again, with that being said, sorry for the shakiness. I hope you guys enjoy, and peace out.
Right here, and all of that comes from the big moment in the early 60s when this great man stood there. So to me, let's put our hands together for a true living legend, Mr. Stan Lee!
This guy does the same thing all the time. He makes that speech, and then there's nothing left for me to say. You are a terrible person. I will not go on with you again. You make the first speech, you get them all excited and thrilled, and then, hello, I'm Stan Lee, and I go, that's not a way to treat a friend, Todd. I've been telling you that.
And if you guys will notice, Stan's putting on that sexy, gravelly, masculine voice for you today, right?
Some sexy voice. I had a cold and I can't lose this damn thing.
We'll call it sexy. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's tease the people that Mr. Stan Lee, how many of you out there have seen Stan Lee do cameos? How many of you think he should win an award for those cameos? So now we're gonna, I know each of you have your favorite. So now we're gonna see what Stan, because he's done so many, what is your favorite cameo?
My favorite cameo.
Strip club.
And if you haven't seen it, get yourself a tape and watch it. In the Thor movie.
Yeah, it's sexy, work it.
In the first scene, Thor is having a drink, and I ask him if I can have some. And he says, no, it's too strong for me. And I tell him I can drink anything. So I drink it. In the next scene, they're carrying me out. Now, let me tell you why that is my favorite cameo. Because you haven't thought of this. Nor have you. It's 2 scenes. All the others are 1 scene. This is 2 scenes. I'm going to tell them my next cameo I want 3 scenes. And pretty soon it'll be my movie.
Now, as I've been up on stage with Stan, I've talked off and on. I'm going to be directing, after Christmas, a new Spawn movie. I'm going to be the director. And one of the things that I've convinced this young man to do is to do a cameo in Spawn.
He convinced me. I told him I'll never do another panel with him if I don't get a cameo.
And so I was just in New York and I explained what I think the cameo will be, although Stan said we should both be in the same cameo, so maybe we'll rewrite it, so we'll have some fun. But here's the cameo in my head, and I'm going to blow it for you, but it's just cool. So I'm
Stop.
going to talk.
He said I should talk to you for a minute.
For a minute, talk.
Well, he does this. If you had this voice, would you be able to talk to somebody for a minute? What you should say, talk to Stan for a minute. All right, go ahead.
Here's the Stan cameo. You guys can look forward to it. It's going to be a big climax at the end of Spawn. Lots of battle, big crashes happening. What's going to happen is somebody's going to kick open the door in the battle, and they're not going to even know, and Stan Lee is going to be sitting in his lazy boy. He's going to have his wife beater shirt on, so we can see those biceps. He's going to have a cigar in one hand, and then he's going to have a Schlitz malt beer in the other one. 5 days will have gone by and he would not have shaved. He is going to look horribly cool, right?
And just like Clint Eastwood.
Yes, that's right, that's right. And then he's going to be watching TV, not a flat screen TV, one of these big bulky ones, you know, and it's going to have the rabbit ears on it, and it's going to be all snowy, and he's going to be watching Alfred Hitchcock in one of his movies. And the scene's going to go, the fight's going to come tumbling, Stan's going to be mad that somebody busted into his apartment, and then they're going to leave and he's going to say something like, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? And then he's going to go back to TV, and I don't know if you guys know, but Alfred Hitchcock was in all his movies, and then he's going to say something like, and what kind of an ego needs to be in all of his movies anyways? And he's going to be out. So we're going to have an anti-cameo by Stan Lee.
All those people in Hollywood get script writers getting millions of dollars. The best they can come up with is me saying, what the hell is that? Thanks a lot.
And who needs to make cameos? Who needs to be in cameo? Who's the ego?
I don't want you to make fun of Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock was a great man. One day he'll say, I'm going to make fun of Stan Lee. This man is uncontrollable. Get him off the stage.
Stan, I'll do it when you're dead. Don't worry about it. We'll do it once you're dead. Don't worry about it. So,
dead.
They don't want you to die.
Neither do I. Go ahead.
All right.
You're good.
So let's go back to Marvel comic books. So here's the question. I don't think I've even asked you this question. What do you miss? I mean, I know.
I don't like a question I haven't been asked because I may not know the answer. I know the answer to all the ones I've been asked. So ask me an old question. Don't trick me. Don't trap me.
No, I'm
not in front of all these people.
No,
don't show me.
No, because I'm curious. All that work you did with Marvel in the early 60s, I mean, obviously, we're now 50 years past that. What part of that time, the 60s, your work, do you miss the most? Not the people. I know that's the easy answer. Not the people. The actual, of how you did the process of working. What do you miss about being a comic book guy?
The thing I miss the most is going home at the end of the day and figuring I don't have to do that anymore till tomorrow. You didn't expect that,
No, I didn't. But you
always tell him what he doesn't expect.
But you used to do, like today, they do, writers, I don't know if you know, write what they call full script. It's like movie scripts. They write it, they tell you what it looks like and what people are saying. That's not what Stan did. He used to give an outline, right? So how long would it take you to actually do those plot outlines that you were giving the artist?
How long did it take to write the outline? A couple hours.
So you created Fantastic Four in a couple hours?
Yeah.
Iron Man?
Actually, it was only 1 hour, but he wouldn't have believed that, so I added another one.
All right, so you now...
See, I'm brilliant.
He is brilliant. Oh, here's another thing that we did before he walked on stage. I was asking Stan, you've got the, anybody gonna go see the new Thor movie? So they showed me, somebody showed me a sneak peek just about 20 minutes ago of Stan's cameo. So I know what it's gonna be. It's pretty cool. And here's where we had some fun. We reenacted that entire scene in the RV. So 2 days after Thor comes out, go to Stan's site and my site, and we're gonna do the reenactment of that scene of Stan and I. We're gonna have some fun with it. So, tell us why people who do cameos should win awards. Why should people who do cameos, why should they win awards?
They shouldn't, I should. What are you lumping other people in with me for? He always does that. I can't stand this man.
Why should Stan Lee win an award for cameo appearances?
Because my cameos are great. His questions are so simple. Can't you ask a tough one?
No. Because here's what I've heard you. You think you're actually the one that gets them to come back and make money because they have to see the cameos over and over and over. Is that?
No, only once, not over and over. I told him this once. He can't even remember correctly. When people go to the movie, if they bend down to get a piece of popcorn, and while they're bending down, they miss my cameo. At the end of the movie, they say, hey, we missed Stan's cameo. So obviously, they have to go back and buy another ticket and watch the movie so that they won't miss my cameo. And that's the reason the movies make so much money, because of my cameos being missed.
So all those record-setting numbers are because people keep spilling their popcorn?
Without popcorn, we'd be broke.
You know, and they charge them a lot on top of it.
We should be more serious up here.
Okay, let's talk about comic books. Then let's talk about comic books.
Does this mean comic books?
Yes.
You walk around going like this, comic books?
Comic books.
I want to see you talk without using your hands.
Okay.
Let's talk about comic books. It's simple.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, comic books must always be written as one word. Never, never write comic books, because that means funny books. And that's not what comic books are. Always make it one word. They're comic books. Don't forget that. If I catch any of you making it, it's too horrible to think of. Go ahead.
Okay, and for the rest of the panel, watch how much I use my hands and watch how much Stan uses his hands. Although he likes to give me a tough time. You talk with your hands a lot too, you know.
Yes, but I do it magnificently.
All right, characters. Let's go through your characters. Iron Man. What was the idea, real quick, when you were coming up with it, real fast? What was on your head?
Is this what you were spending time thinking of last night? I'm going to ask Stan these dumb questions. Is that what was I thinking of Iron Man?
Iron Man.
I was thinking of me. I wanted a guy who was brilliant, handsome. No, I wasn't rich. There's enough brilliant and handsome.
Thor.
And adorable.
Thor.
I always wished I had long hair, and that was my chance.
He could have looked like Fabio. He would have been a great Fabio. That's it. Spider-Man. Young. So now we go from intellectual person, Tony Stark, to teenager, Peter Parker. Why that shift? Why
Peter Parker was intellectual.
No,
he was a great student. Wasn't he? Don't you remember? Go back and read the origin.
Yeah. I actually have a copy of it. I've got a Spider-Man #1 and Amazing Fantasy 14.
Jesus, you could retire on that.
That's it. In the 40s, how did you break into comic books? How did you break into the business?
How did I get into the business? Accidentally. There was a publishing company. I hate my voice. Doesn't anybody have a drink of water or something?
Water?
There was a publishing company that published a lot of different books. Sports stories, detective stories, love stories. And they had a little line of comic books that nobody paid any attention to. But they needed an assistant to help with the comics. They needed somebody to erase the pages and put them together and nothing. So I wandered up fresh out of high school and they gave me the job and I became a comic book man and that was it.
Comic book writer. So did you ever
I didn't write right away.
Right here.
Thank you.
So here's the question. Did you ever have any artistic, I don't mean this in a negative way, because you have a lot of creative ability, but did you ever have any artistic ability? Did you ever want to be...
I beg you, it didn't help.
Yeah, I'll hold it for you. Just leave it again.
Nothing will help. What did you say?
The question was, did you ever have any artistic ability? Did you ever want to draw?
I drew ever since I was a little kid. When I was 4 years old, I would draw a horizontal line on a piece of paper, and that was the ground. Then I would draw little stick figures running around and punching each other. That was my idea of an action story. I always did that. I made up my little stories with a stick figure and the ground.
All right. Now we're getting to the 70s, right? So we've gone 40s, we've gone the 60s. Now let's get into the 70s. By 1970, I start collecting comic books. I know Stan Lee because your name is on top of every single comic book, right? Stan Lee.
Wouldn't let them publish it if it didn't have my name on it. I was a glory fiend.
Oh, how did that come about? Every comic book had Stan Lee Presents. How did that come about?
Because I presented them.
Oh. All right. So now there comes a time where everybody used to have to be in New York City, right? That was a given. You had to write in New York City, you had to draw in New York City, you had to go to the office in New York City.
Because I lived in New York City.
Right. But eventually, Stan Lee doesn't live in New York City. Stan Lee somehow magically lands in California. That's as far away in this country you can get, minus the islands, from New York to California. How did Stan Lee go to California from New York, and why?
They had been doing animated cartoons of our characters and
in Hollywood,
producing them out here.
Yeah.
And I saw them and I thought I could do better. So I called a meeting at Marvel and I said, why don't we produce our own cartoons instead of letting other people do it for us? And I said, in fact, I am willing to move my whole family out to the coast and set up our own unit. What they didn't know, I wanted to move to the coast. I wanted this beautiful weather. I didn't want those snowy days. but I made it sound like I'd be making a sacrifice. And there wasn't a dry eye in the place. They said, "You would do that for us, Stan?" And I said, "Yes." So I moved out here and we set up Marvel Studios. And that was the beginning of the whole thing.
And then they invented FedEx. So now nobody has to be in New York City anymore. We can do it. Look, I was in Canada, I'm Canadian, and I was doing G.I. Joe, a real American hero, in Canada as a Canadian at some point. So that's how good it is. You don't have to be
That
in New York.
was a redundancy. You said you were born in Canada as a Canadian. What else would you have been if you were born in Canada? You gotta learn to be economical. These people don't have time for that repetitiveness.
Yes, sir. All right, hey, they just gave me a warning, 5 minutes. So before we go, here, you take this case. Let's take a couple questions from the audience. I'll get the questions, I'll bring them to you. All right, we've got one right here. Yes, sir.
Don't sit on it.
Mr. Lee, what do you think is the most influential thing that you've ever done in your life, and why?
The question was about yourself, most influential.
On me or the world?
Either way, answer it either way.
I think Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. And now part two, why?
It changed superheroes forever.
Why Spider-Man? Where'd you come up with the name?
Spider-Man was the one about a teenage kid, and he wasn't that strong in the beginning, and he had a lot of problems, and he wasn't like any other superhero. And after Spider-Man, people started writing better superhero stories, and I should have been given a royalty for every one of them.
All right, you have another question up here. Somebody, you got a question? Okay, young man.
Out of all the modern comic books, which one was your favorite to make, like the plots and stories for?
So his question was, of all the characters, which character did you like writing the most? Which one did you like writing the most?
Oh, I like writing all of them. They were all fun. And I like the idea of being able to change. I could go from Doctor Strange to the X-Men to the Hulk. Each one was so different that I couldn't get bored. I could be boring for other people, but I couldn't get bored.
What is your favorite Marvel hero?
Another question, what's your favorite character of all the ones you've created?
I love them all, but I'd have to say Spider-Man.
We got one young lady right here, and then we got two more questions here. Yes.
What is your favorite Fantastic Four? Your favorite character?
Out of the Fantastic Four, which one of the four do you like the best? If you
I was hoping he'd sit on that.
Yeah. Of the Fantastic Four, who's your favorite?
The Thing.
Hey, yes. He was my favorite too. He was cool. And then the Human Torch. I like the Human Torch. Who doesn't want to be flying around in flames all over the place? It'd be cool. So,
You notice the difference in our competitive company. If somebody drove a car, it was a whiz-bang G8 or something. In the Fantastic Four and in all the Marvel books, if they drove a car, it was a Ford or a Mercedes. It was a real car. And if they lived somewhere, it was on the east side of New York, or on 58th Street, or on facing Central Park. It wasn't in some fictitious city. Marvel was real life, and the others were just all made up. In fact, I'm real life. Anybody from the competition who sits here is really made up.
So take that, Metropolis. Take that, Metropolis. All right, let's see. Who's got a question? One more question out here. Here, young lady.
Oh! What is the most important message that your characters bring to all of us, or a really important message that you wanted to bring to the people who read your comics?
Well, that's a good question. I'll bring it up to you. It's a good question.
See, now he's rating the question.
Yes, that was a good
That
one.
was a good question.
That was a good. We're going to end on a high note here. Her question was, what is the message that you hope that your characters convey to the audience when you're writing them? What are you trying to get across to the audience?
By Marvel Comics.
And that's as deep as you went. All those years, I thought there was more.
Sit on the water and be quiet.
No. So
No, the message I always try to get across, for crying out loud, you can be a good guy or a bad guy. Be a good guy. It's more fun. It pays off in the end. Nobody likes the bad guys, and that's it.
Now that's an interesting answer, because you created a lot of good bad guys, or bad, how would I say that? A lot of cool bad guys, we'll say. Magneto, Doctor Doom, the Green Goblin. I mean, to me, those are just as important.
Doc Ock.
Doc Ock, right? I always felt that Galactus, right, those are good, because
Scorpion.
We're gonna go Venom. No, he didn't do Venom over here. You're talking to the kid. Nothing. Sometimes it's good he can't hear. So, okay, before we go, would you like to leave a message to these good people who've come here to see you? A message.
The deepest message I can live. It's very philosophical and give it a lot of thought. Buy Marvel! And the most important message of all, join me in this.
Ready?
Except